Hello and welcome to our monthly Culture Corner here on the Serenity Resource Connector. Thank you so much for tuning in. Culture Corner is brought to you in partnership with the JCDC. And for this episode, we are celebrating Jamaican creativity and the power of visual arts to inspire, educate, and uplift. So we're going to dive right into the discussion, bringing on no stranger to this space to lead out Winston Campbell, our specialist for visual arts there at the JCDC. Welcome back, Sir Campbell.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good evening to all our viewers, listeners, and just fans of this program.
All right. So, of course, we are going to start by looking at the role because JCDC takes on so many different things. The gamut is so wide, and we were talking earlier that when you think JCDC, we think about the performances, but the arts is so varied. And for those who have been in the Culture Corner space for some time, you would see the different elements of JCDC. So Sir Campbell is going to share with us now what is the JCDC Visual Arts Competition and why is it important?
Thank you for that. So the JCDC Visual Arts Competition is one aspect of the range of activities that we undertake, given our mandate to unearth, to showcase, and to develop the best of Jamaica's culture. So the question that you've asked is then best seen perhaps from looking at the different stakeholders and the vantage points that they bring to this conversation. We at the JCDC understand that Jamaica is a land of talent. And we know that for the visual arts, we have talented individuals all across our island of Jamaica. And so that takes me to the second group of stakeholders, which would be our artists. Our competition in visual arts is open to artists from 6 years old all the way up to, there's no limit really in that regard. And the JCDC Visual Arts Competition is an opportunity. It's a major opportunity. And as an opportunity, we're talking about the longest running visual arts undertaking that we can find when we look at the history of Jamaica. We're also talking about the largest undertaking of its kind, the largest competition in terms of scope, perhaps across the region. And that's something I need to look at to see just how we compare to our global partners. But certainly when we look at what we have been doing in Jamaica and across the Caribbean, we are in fact the largest in scope, the number of entries, but also the range in terms of the creative disciplines and the creative interests that our artists showcase on a year-by-year basis. And so when we say it's an opportunity, it's a big word, but it's not. We understand that there's a longer history and that there's a role that we must play to ensure that our artists understand just their place, but also understand where they could go in the scheme of things. And the other thing is just our partners. We do thank our partners who have been with us over the years and the new ones that have come on as we go through. And so when we think again about what is the competition, we understand that it's a partnership that for the best Jamaican talents to be on display at various places around the island and indeed outside of Jamaica.
Indeed, and talking about artists being on display, we are going to be highlighting one of our artists coming out of Clarendon in a little while. Thank you, Sir Pusey. Sir Pusey is bigging up JCDC, and we have to give credit to Mr. Pusey for bringing this one to light here at the Serenity Resource Connector space. Thank you for making the connection. All right. So a lot of things are evolving, changing, and for the better. Because I've been to a couple of the auditions in Clarendon and I've seen the changes and I see the the judges are excited about the new gadgets and all of that. But tell us on the visual arts side, how has the program evolved in recent years? And what are some of the focus areas for 2025?
All right. So you mentioned the use of gadgets and technologies. I am proud to say that the visual arts competition, we were the first to test this new system that we see
Okay.
now being engaged for the performing arts competition. And it is a wonderful system. It made the submission of entries so seamless. It made the adjudication process easy. And so we are excited that we are going to be able to use this technology again going into 2025. But let's backtrack for a little bit. And to answer the question, I want to talk about some of the things that happened last year in 2024. Apart from the use of our new technology, the Awards Force platform, the competition last year had some structural changes. So those who participated would have realized that we increased the number of creative categories that persons may enter their artworks under, from about 7 or 8 disciplines to 13 disciplines. And we were able to do this out of a respect for some of the nuances that we identified for some of the areas. So, for example, we had ceramics standing on its own as a discipline. We had collage standing as a discipline on its own. We had digital illustration, talking about the technology, being a discipline in its own right for the first time in our competition. This is not to say we didn't have some of the more traditional areas like painting and drawing and so forth. In fact, one of the things that we're very excited about was the observation that for years we didn't have submissions in jewelry and in ceramics, and we're able to have entries in all of those areas. So last year we had 13 creative categories as opposed to the traditional 7 or 8 that we had. Last year we also emphasized the work of our intuitive artists. These are artists who traditionally work outside of the mainstream. They may not have gone to art school, they may not have had formal training in art, and they also bring this unique creative vision to the visual art process. And so we recognize that, yes, within our national canon, there are a number of names that we could talk about. We could talk about Caporenas, we could talk about Everald Daly, we could talk about Ras Dizzy. But is it that there are some other intuitives that we may be driving past when we go through Portland, or when we go through Negril, or when we're going through St. Anne, that we have not been paying attention to these wood carvers, these painters, these persons who draw, but are not a part of the formal system, so to speak. And so our competition recognizes that there are talented individuals who maybe, we'll have to take a trip and find them and encourage them to be a part of what we are doing. But it also means that as we review their work, as we go through the adjudication process, that we allow for these artists' submissions to be viewed through a different lens. And let's give you an example of that. Last year, we had an artist by the name of Myrtle Henny who was submitting these wonderful, large drawings, but she's not just self-taught, she's intuitive. She has not gone through art school, and we could see in her drawing a sort of passion, but also a visual difference. And that's why we say intuitive. Those are the type of things we're getting at, that there's something quite unique about how artists like Myrtle Henny would have approached the creative process. There are other artists who come to mind who submit work year after year, such as Sir Hewitt, Vince Hewitt from Manchester. So there are several of our artists, and what we have encouraged our adjudicators to do is to consider just the importance that these artists bring through their unique vision. So that was another new undertaking from the 2024 competition. And of course, We had strong emphasis on our youth artists last year. As said before, our competition is open to artists from 6 years old upwards, and so we want our primary and our primary school students to children to be a part of our competition. We want our high schoolers who are in first, second, and third form to also be a part of the competition. It is not for the CXC artists or the sixth formers, the Cape artists only. And so that was another change last year. I think I want to mention one other change from last year, or two really, to just kind of give us a sense of how things have been evolving. One was the return of prizes, which was dormant for a while, and the other was clarification on the criteria and regulations. So last year was a year of change, and there's more to be said in that regard. The second part of your question, 2025, what are some things that we'll be doing a little bit differently? So I can't let everything out the bag, but I can say that we are in fact maintaining the momentum from last year. So some of the things I just mentioned are in place. However, we are looking at a couple of things. What are some of the proposals that are on the table that we are considering? We are considering a new class. And for those of us who are not as familiar with the use of the word class within the context of the JCDC Visual Arts competition, the class refers to an age group because we believe in fairness in all our competitions. And so in reviewing the artworks, those artists who are, say, between ages 6, 7, and 8, those they are grouped together, and we may refer to this group as class 1, and we may have a class 2, 3, and so forth. We are looking to create a young adult group to have those artists who are still in the school system or high school system. They may be 18 years old and so forth. But we don't want to have them competing with our more seasoned artists. It's not as fair to them, as they're still developing an understanding of their craftsmanship requirements. They're still understanding composition. They're still understanding light and dark. And so we are proposing a change in that regard. We are proposing as well a change, a return, of some of the other prizes that we have not had for quite some time. I can't get into specifics, but I could hint and say, teachers, I see your work. I see what Magoti, the teachers in Magoti at Magoti High School have been doing. I've seen what the teachers at Listamere Gilby High, what they have been doing. I've seen what the teachers at St. Hughes have been doing. I've seen what the teachers at AISK have been doing. And that list continues. York Castle, I could go on and on. So I see our educators and I want to have them encouraged. And naturally, we want to also re-engage some of our past partners as well as build relationships with new ones. There are conversations that have been ongoing in this regard as we move into the 2025 season for the JCDC Visual Arts competition. And so a lot of things are new and a lots of things are being we're bringing energy, we're revamping, we're re-energizing, and we are pretty much getting to a place where we're ready to go and to have all the new things just being brought to the forefront as we have been doing over the past 60 plus years.
Amazing. And I can hear and see some of our artists saying that sounds exciting. How can I win some of these prizes?
Well,
How can the artists participate in this year's competition?
well, that's a very good question. One of the things that we are proud of before I get to the focus of that question is the fact that last year we had 275 participating artists in the competition.
Oh,
The number is significant because it's the highest number of participating artists over, say, the last 8 or 9 years. The competition is gaining momentum. And so, as you've hinted, those artists who are thinking of being a part of the competition in 2025, you are likely to be a part of history. You are likely to be a part of the largest competition that we've had for quite some time. Now, having said that, what do you want to do if you are an artist and you're hearing all of this excitement and you're wondering how to be a part of it? Now, the first thing is that you want to look at the artworks that you have been creating from last year, 2024, to this point. Because our competition allows you to submit work in 2025, you can submit work that you completed in 2024. If you are working on something in 2024 and it's not yet finished, finish it now. And if it was finished, put it together, pull it out, dust it off, and get it ready. So identify the artworks that you've created. In fact, we are accepting entries in about 2 months' time in June. And so again, if you want to participate, but you have not done any work since the start of 2025, you did not do any work in 2024, you still have some time to get on your tablet, to get on your computer, to get out your watercolor paper, to get out your canvas board, to get your brushes, get your pencils, get your pens, just get all the media, get your glue, get your fabric, get your threads, bring it all out and let us get creative. Get your cameras, get your phones out, get all your tools out and go for it. We still have some time. So that's the first thing. Let's get the artworks out. Now, once you have the artworks, the next thing is you'd want to just look at them and take proper images, proper photographs of your artwork. Ensure that if you put them on your bed, to take the picture, that you crop out the bed linen. If you put them against a wall, to take the pictures, crop out the wall. We want to see a nice, clean, clear image. Do the best you can to photograph your artworks. And then you want to give your artworks a title. Do not call your artworks untitled. And do not, if you have 3 artworks that are, a part of a series, you had gone to the beach and it was a wonderful day and you saw someone passing and you're taking several pictures of her and you submit them all with the same title. Let us manifest that our creative energies and even in terms of how we create titles for our artworks, or the titles that we assign to our artwork. So find the artworks, take pictures of them, and then give them titles. Once you've done that, the next step really is to ensure that you have an active email address. The email address is the first step in the process of you submitting those entries, because we will want for you to go to our website, which is jcdc.awardsplatform.com. You could also access the submission platform from the main JCDC website, which is jcdc.gov.jm, and you click on competitions, and of course you click on visual arts. That would be in the top right, and it will take you right to where you could enter the Awards Force platform. So once you go to our main website, or you go to www.jcdc.awardsplatform.com, you will then, first thing you're going to be asked to do is to submit your email address. So that email must be active to get back to that point. And once you've submitted that email, you'll receive a code, and you'll use that code to then put it back in the system, put in your name and your other particulars, such as a contact number, and then you'll be asked to upload your images. You upload the first image. If you are submitting multiple artworks, you upload the first one, put in the titles and so forth, select the right category. Is the artwork a ceramic submission? Is it a collage? Is it digital illustration? Is it a drawing? Is it a fashion submission? Is it fiber art, jewelry, painting, photography, printmaking, sculpture, textile art, or text-based designs? We have 13 categories. Please select the most appropriate one. Okay. Note for fashion designers, we want you to show us a full look. The fashion designers know what that term means. We want the full look. All right. If it is that you only have illustrations, then naturally you'll submit these under drawing. If they were digitally prepared, you submit these under digital illustration. So you want to think through the right category, because if you submit the artwork under the wrong category, the adjudicators, if they're expecting collage and they receive a sculpture, you are running risk a serious risk in that regard. And so once you have inputted your particulars in the platform, naturally you must click submit. And once you click the submit button, you'll receive an automatic message in your email to say, hey, we have received your submissions. Now, remember, June is when we're accepting entries. So between now and June, you're either finding your old artworks from last year to this year, or you're creating new artworks using whatever tool item you can find. Bottles, cardboard, it doesn't matter. And you pull these all together and make it work. Pardon me for that. Of course, if you have questions and you want additional information, send us an email at visarts@jcdc.gov.jm. That is visarts@jcdc.gov.jm. So in summary, that is how you can participate in the JCDC Visual Arts Competition for the year 2025.
Amazing. And we are well ahead, so you have more than enough time to prepare. So I see Justin, Stefina, and other of our young leaders over there. So make sure that your youth groups are aware so that they can showcase their artistic abilities. And I heard fashion design. That was the last thing that came to my mind when I thought about visual arts. So you see,
Well, if I may,
yes.
one of the prizes that we had last year for the first time in years was the top artist. And the top artist in the 2020 competition was a fashion designer. The top artist is that person who received the most gold medals. And our winner, Danielle Gordon, submitted 5 looks. We're talking dress, bag, the whole works. And she received 5 gold medals.
Look at that. It's
So,
amazing.
top artists, fashion design. I give you another tidbit. We allowed artists last year to submit up to 13 artworks. There was an artist last year who received, in terms of the mixture of gold, silver, bronze medals, as well as merits, there was an artist from St. Catherine who received 13 such prizes. So our jurors were out. I mean, we had jurors from St. James winning medals, from St. Catherine, as was just mentioned, winning medals, from St. Anne winning medals, and I could go on. Okay, so all the areas are active, and we want to keep it like that. And I mentioned the range of materials. Our jewelers, Rose McGee from St. James, she used natural materials for her jewelry making, a mixture of wood and beads and so forth. And then we have other jewelers who were using metal and, going a little bit more traditional, silversmiths and so forth in their approach. The JCDC competition is open to you using all the materials. We wouldn't mind seeing jewelry made of cardboard once it is awesome
Creativity.
in the 2025 competition. And this applies as well to our sculpture submissions. Our ceramic submissions last year was not limited to vessels. We had ceramic-based illustrations. Kamala Davis, if I'm not mistaking her name, out of St. Thomas. And note, I'm going around the island with these examples. Note
Yes.
that her work were really illustrative work, illustrative submissions, but made using clay.
I wonder if it's Kami Jewelry. She was on Instagram earlier. If that's you, Kami,
So there's a whole
kudos.
lot. And one of the wonderful things about this competition is that there is no limit. We don't have a theme for the competition. Someone asked me that just today. Is there a theme? No, we're open. What we want is the best Jamaican culture showcased through visuals. So get your camera. An artist last year used his phone went into the transport center in Kingston in Halfway Tree and used his phone and captured a unique moment, printed it large. It was wonderful, and he received a gold medal for his
Wow.
vision.
Look at that.
And so this is
So,
a type of
yeah.
thinking that we want. You know, you're in your garden. There are things that you're observing. You're observing nature in Jamaica. You're walking around, you're observing our architecture built environment. You're observing our natural environment. You're observing our people. You're observing our industry. One of the other artworks that received a gold medal was called Market Doctor, done by a gentleman from St. Catherine, feet showcasing an elderly gentleman, stethoscope around the neck, in one of our market spaces. I don't know if it was Linstead Market or Coronation Market, but again, I am saying let us think through this. A youngster won a gold medal in photography for images showcasing his peers at school. It was called I am thirsty or something of the sort. They were at a pipe at school or something. So there again, there are stories in the way that in our drama competitions, we
Yeah.
pull from our culture. In our visual arts, we want the same thing.
Same elements.
Pull
Oh,
from our culinary and put some work, submit work that utilizes the coconut shell as again Cassandra Brenton from last year, what she did with her mixed media submissions, mixing fiber with the coconut shell to create these figures, which she told me subsequently are all characters that she's developing for
wow.
another project.
Look at that.
And so, yes, bring it all. And what we're looking to do more of is to provide feedback. Now, last year during adjudication, we were able to provide some feedback. And now we are in the process of talking to our artists and giving them some more feedback, because we want for that to be a part of what we do, because we are not having the competition, for the sake of having the competition. Earlier, when I was asked, what is the JCDC Visual Arts Competition? The word I was sort of using or focusing on was opportunity. The
Yes.
opportunity is also to showcase and receive feedback on your work
So they can keep improving.
so that they can improve. So even yesterday, I was having a conversation with an educator who teaches at one of our schools for the hearing impaired. Yes,
Oh,
we have participants in our competition who win medal who are impaired but very creative.
that's right.
And that educator is talking to me and getting feedback and noting this feedback so that this student, who's a high schooler, will be even more prepared to participate in the 2025 competition.
Talk
And the
about
educator further,
inclusivity.
yeah, further went on to say that, hey, I saw the exhibition last year and I saw where the standard was. I saw where the bar was set. And I'm going
Yes.
to be a lot more prepared when I work with my students in 2025. And so
Love.
again, I
Yes,
am
love
I'm,
that.
I'm sort of sharing a bit more around all the questions that you've asked, really. Just what is this competition? But also when you think about what is competition, just how it is evolving, and of course, just how you can be a part of it.
Fantastic. And Sir Pusey is saying that he remembers entering drama and dub competition at his school, Glenmuir High. And he's happy to know that every aspect of art is factored in.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's why we are
We have
having
culinary
Culture
coming up.
Corner.
Yeah, man.
So
We
we
have
can
culinary
highlight.
coming up in a few weeks, so all the areas are there and they're all integrated.
Right. And we are always happy to be a part of the showcasing here on Culture Corner. And so, in the spotlight for this Culture Corner for the visual arts is the best overall adult artist in the collage category in the person of Dushaine Loraine, our 2024 JCDC Visual Arts Competition medalist. And we're going to be seeing two of his pieces that were submitted. Educator, let's big up their technical high school.
Indeed, the home
Where
of
are
champions.
they? I'm not seeing them in the comments.
The home of champions.
All
Indeed.
right. When you said that, I thought of Veronica Campbell.
Thanks for
Amazing.
having me on your platform.
Pleasure.
Your
Thanks
audience as
to
well.
Romario Pusey and the JCDC team for ensuring that you are highlighted here. And this is part of what we do in Culture Corner. It's not just collecting the medal, but we're able to bring you into this space to actually highlight to your community because we are from the same parish, but I didn't know about Dushaine Loraine. So happy to meet you virtually and look forward to meeting you in person soon. So let's hear about your journey. What inspired you to enter the JCDC Visual Arts competition?
Well, I've always considered the JCDC a platform in which I can express myself. And I believe in expressing myself as an artist and as a teacher, I need to somehow inspire my students beyond just the regular classroom activity. So the JCDC was also a way for me to want see where my artistic ability was, and then use that national platform as a way to inspire my students, long and short. So that's where it was for me.
Talk about leading the way, showing the way. So it's not just about you teaching them, telling them, but you are walking the walk as you taught the talk. And any success story coming out of that? Anyone was inspired by your journey that's now looking to enter this year?
Yes, I have a lot of students back at Great Technical that are eager and ready. In fact, I have one from Bustamante High School as well, Roman as well. So
Ah,
it's not just very technical alone.
okay.
Everywhere I go, I try to leave a footprint that is lasting beyond just where I step. So I have a young lady in sixth form as well. That's Melanie. She's actually looking forward to and on her way to UTech as well. So architecture student. So I am just trying to be the best that I can be for them to be inspired to do what they can do. As I said, they are the home champions already. So it's evident that it will somehow benefit in the future.
Indeed. And you're just developing more champions, well rounded champions that dig in and connect with their inner creative energy. All right. Can you talk us through your winning collage pieces, the messages and technique? Let's go with this one
All
first.
right. So for me, I'm looking at the context of post-traumatic slave syndrome, and the theory believed that art, or better yet, our ancestors that were enslaved, some of that trauma was passed on from the plantation to us, the descendants of enslaved. Notice I didn't say slave. It was forceful. It was not accidental. So for me, though I'm an art teacher and also have a love of history, so I'm a Pan-Africanist as well. So the philosophies of Garvey, the Black aesthetics also merits what I do. So it's not necessarily just about creating a pretty image. It's also having a lasting impact in what I create and how I use that to create and stir up conversations. So the rebars, if you observe the character closely, is behind. And the eyes, though they're somewhat being seen, they're bold, but they're dark. Dark in the sense that my ancestors have been through so much trauma throughout time that even though we're in a post-colonial era, slavery still have some manifestations that is still vivid. And one of that is the rebars. So the shackles and those entrapments, though mental now, somehow those physical traumas still can be seen. All of us in Jamaica can relate to grilling our properties, to consider that this is a sense of safety. But is this safety or is it just the perception of what the mind has been instilled from the village living syndrome that has been created over the years? So that's what that work is about. And as I said before, I cannot use my artwork in a sense where I'm just using a model. I have to model myself in that aspect and put myself in some of what my ancestors has went through in the past. So that's what that work is about.
This one?
Now, the second piece, funny enough, is actually my favorite piece. Now, I was looking at what COVID-19 brought with it and what I don't like restrictions. In fact, my students can tell you I don't even sit around a desk. So the fact that I had to wear a mask for 2 years with a bank or wherever, ironically, these masks would have considered you to become a villain or a thief in regular context, because the hidden or hiding of the face is considered to be some obstruction of somebody that is going to do something crude or rude or vulgar or violent. Here it is, though, that I'm asked to silence myself, and the works were titled Echo of Silence. So the mask is in the shape of a hand, and the rebars are in the front of the face. The eyes are not visible because at this point, I'm being honest with you, I don't want to wear this mask. But yet still, you're forcing me to do something beyond my control. And that was what enslavement was. We did not appreciate slavery. We did not delve in it inside and say, ooh, ha, plantation life is so sweet. But yet still, within the colonial era that we are existing in, persons are still able to forcefully use their hand to mold and shape our environments. So I just wanted to bring that to tuition. And as well as I look at it, I'm still using myself as the main vessel of identity and subject matter. Still looking at the black aesthetics. And that's what mainly all my works will always be about. Black aesthetics.
What a powerful, and I could hear the different elements that Sir Campbell spoke about earlier in terms of ensuring that he has a title and all of that. This is amazing. I would love to be in one of your art class.
You can come in anytime you wish.
Oh,
But in my HOD with mine. Shout out to Miss Graham. So yeah, it's a family. So we work together. And
yes,
my HOD also somewhat bamboozled me to enter these competitions and to show my students that art does not exist within the classroom environment alone. And in changing the landscape of a community, you have to be the catalyst for change. So she kind of put me in the deep end of the pool and asked me to swim. So I'm trying my best to not drown, but tread water indeed.
that's right. And I think we all need those kind of environment because there are people around us who are able to see, just as JCDC and unearth and develop what is there so that you can shine like the diamonds you are. But how has participating in the competition influenced your career as a visual artist and teacher?
All right, it's funny. I tell my students all the time, I did not select teaching. Teaching actually selected me. I finally found a job in which I don't feel like I'm working and I constantly give of myself. And JCDC somewhat has let me realize that the tools in which I take for granted can also be used to inspire and motivate persons beyond the scope of where I thought my imagination was. So art comes natural to me. Dr. Campbell alluded to being intuitive. This is something that was nurtured way just beyond just JCDC, but from 61 Redlands Road, I've been doing this. So you're talking about 17 years of sacrifice prior to this stage. So it's become somewhat of an innate ability just for me to create. So without creating, it's almost as if you have stifled just my very way of breathing, so to speak. So the JCDC has allowed me to understand not just being an artist, exhibiting my skill, but also find a way to tap in and find my students and pull them out of the classroom. Let them realize that as simple as how they look at these things that we give them for assignments, it can also be turned into works of art in which nobody can put a price on but yourself.
Wow, so amazing. And this is just so deep. Thank you so much,
Could we
Sir
go deeper, but
Fusey,
I
for
don't want to.
connecting, making this connection. And these are some of the conversations that I believe we need to have more of so we can have a better understanding and appreciation of the depth that comes with some of the career choices. So it's not just about you being a teacher, but it's you basically just using what you have been given to share and to inspire the little minds that you have working with.
I'm a graphic designer
And
by trade. So, I mean, it just depends on what the avenue required for the medium of the work. So, whatever the message is, I'll find a way to convey that message. So, that's really it. So, Most of what my work is now was coined in terms of theory from 2016 prior to now, and that was under the philosophies of Garvey. So if you want me to get deep, I can. The philosophies of Garvey, the black skin is not a badge of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of national greatness. So I can't ask my students to do something and I'm not doing it. So, for example, as simple as Dr. Campbell will probably lecture here, but instead of saying Chinese bump is Bantu nuts and just using the African breeding, you will understand that there's a deeper connection, a deeper meaning. In Colombia, they have festivals for just breeding, but it's something that transcends beyond just of words. These were actually used to create roadmaps to escape from plantations and create these maps in such a way that they will use their ear to help navigate through these pastures. So you have to understand and connect with your roots. You have to understand that art is not created in a vacuum, but rather it's a glorious representation of what can become and what is to be. And unfortunately, the past is always constantly affecting us. So I can't shape away from history, but rather I'm using my art to shape the history that I know. I did not come from slaves. I was enslaved, but not the mind. So Bob Marley quoted Garvey, others have chanted it, but at the end of the day, Garvey is the light in terms of black aesthetics and appreciating that which is black. So black is beautiful. So the bleaching of the skin is a no-no. And those are the nuances that I portray in my work. Because it's only black aesthetics. I have no love or no other love but within, and therefore I bring it out. Black aesthetics straight through.
Sir Campbell just smiling like a proud teacher. Ah, it's so amazing. You all have an awesome opportunity to mold these young minds and produce these, I mean, pearls. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about art in the classroom and the community. What role does visual art play in building self expression among youth?
You want me to go or Dr. Campbell?
You're in the spotlight now.
All
Let's hear
right.
you.
For me, I look at it from a scaffolding perspective. I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up analyzing dolls. For example, if you remember in the early 90s, there usually be Barbie dolls and they were white. And I got caught up in the idea or the ideology of why is it that every doll around me is white? Why is it that there's this Eurocentric notion of beauty that does not accept the black aesthetics? Why is it that I'm being measured against my Eurocentric counterparts as if black doesn't exist to be beautiful as it stands? Why is it that as a nation and as a people, I'm talking Pan African movement now, I realized that you're labeling us. We were once Negroes and now we're black, forgetting that all of us are pigments and melanin is of hue of brown. And that's why I stick to black aesthetics. So for me, in the art community, especially in the classroom, art must be a catalyst, not just for change, but social and upright mobility and movement. So my students should know and understand, yes, it's nice to draw white people, I have no problem, I'm not racist. But at the same breath, you also have to appreciate the kinky ear, the type 4, the type 3 ear type. So if you're not able to appreciate that which is in front of you when you look in the mirror, at what point will you then get that appreciation? At what point will I teach my students not just to appreciate art, but also to understand that culture, nationalism, as it relates to pride and intrinsic value, travels with this. So it's not just about teaching art, but it's also teaching them a way in which they can appreciate that which they have been earthed from. Our ancestors were brought here, forced to work, but yet still the resolve remained that we're still strong, proud, and true. And as our motto stated, out of many one people. So clearly, the melanin of the skin it does not mean white, Indian, shiny. It means that we have one ideology or one thinking as Jamaican. We are strong. The very word Jamaican means I can. So the unthinkable is not something that notion I'm asking my students to instill. but rather to believe that even at the brink of failure, there is success. And that's what I chant. So my students know, even now, and I will prophesy now, going into CXC, if you're technical, 100% passes, because it's the notion of thinking. And as Garvey chanted, if the mind has been stirred in such a way that the confidence is there, you cannot uproot confidence. And though Willie Lynch tried to break my ancestors, unfortunately, I have champions in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent,
In,
youth. Excellent.
yes, go
If I
ahead,
may
second.
add to
Yes, go ahead.
what was being shared, um, so Dushaine gave us a perspective which was powerful, and I've enjoyed just listening to the articulation and the consistency in the articulation that came out just now. I want to add, though, to the conversation a longer sort of just kind of go back even further than Duchesne did. Now, in terms of building self-expression among our youth, Duchesne helped us to appreciate the fact there's a history. How do we deal with this? The simple truth is that so many of us are visual learners and we're engaging a whole lot of visuals day by day through our TikToks, through our Instagrams, and through other means that may even be non-digital. We are visual by nature. And so the visual arts facilitate and creates opportunities for these types of engagements of the history that we're talking about, but also facilitates just putting an idea out there. And even through the JCDC Visual Arts competition, one of the reasons why we have the number of creative categories that we do is that we realize that our young people have different visual ways of expressing themselves and different visual ways of sort of sharing their interest, but also their anxieties and also their challenges and also their just what they want in terms of their future. Dushaine spoke about the use of braiding as a part of the communications framework to navigate not just away from the plantation, but out of a particular type of existence that was harmful to us. What can we take from that? When we think of the textile, the fiber art, the jewelry, and these things, they're also means of identifying, but and also communicating ideas. The young people have skills. Not everyone is going to excel in some of the more traditional academic subjects. I was speaking to a young man today who his thing he fixes phones. His father is a furniture maker, and what was being said about the young man by a female who was in our presence was that it's his father who instilled these skills, the ability to, the experience of using his hands, being around his father, transferred, and the man is now very skilled at dealing with very tiny electronic elements to fix our tablets, computers, phones, and so forth. All right. So we're talking about all of these things. We want to also acknowledge the emotional needs of our young people and the physical needs of our young people and the range of careers in the visual arts that would be possible through just engaging in this discipline. And so what role does it play? It plays a whole lot of roles. Dushaine said we could go deeper. We could be talking for a couple of days. But certainly, I think the question points to the fact that the visual arts is an important part of just who we are as a Jamaican people. Dushaine probably had a similar life experience to me, whereby, when I was a child, drawing was the thing to do once we finish our schoolwork. Drawing was what we were doing when we came home from school. It was a way of just kind of releasing, going in a different place in terms of our imagination and so forth. And to think, we're in a season now, I won't define it with a term, but let's people go back to the 1930s in Jamaica, for example. The poets were putting out poems, Negro aroused, but our visual artists were also putting out artwork, Negro aroused. It's the artists who were at the center inspiring our people. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, labor riots, 1938. And we could give many other examples of just the intersection between art, community, young people, and improvements resulting from these engagements within our society. And that is why I am here today, and that is why Dushaine is here today. It's what young people who had an interest in art, what they have been doing over the last century that created that platform, that framework for us to even be able to mold the minds that we've been able to. And so, I mean, there's so many dimensions that we could bring to the conversation. And I was smiling because it was just so wonderful to hear from Dushaine, and I just wanted to add those 2 or 3 cents to that.
Awesome. All right, let's take this question from Sir Pusey. Mr. Campbell, what is the possibility of artists like Mr. Loraine presenting their pieces with the music of their choice and something like a 1 to 2 minutes explanation of their pieces? Talk about creativity.
All right, so I mean that is an interesting question. If I'm not misreading it, and I'm hoping that I'm not, we're really here and thinking about just the intersection again across the different artistic expressions. And so, is it a possibility? Absolutely. I am going to move a little from the detail in the question to talk about something that happens quite often within our visual art space at the National Gallery of Jamaica as a part of the last Sunday's engagement. From time to time, we have that intersection happening. The Nexus group, for example, coming to the gallery and using music and movement to reinterpret, rework, and to expand on the understanding of the art that is on display within the gallery. And when you absolutely, presenting your work and integrating music and bringing that together is something that we've been doing. A project that I did recently also had such those types of intersections happening. An artist who is a medalist in our JCDC competition in 2024, Ramon Christie, a ceramic artist, he did a ceramic sculpture that looked at just the scourge of violence that exists within our society. And he submitted that in the JCDC competition. He won a gold medal. And then there was an opportunity to expand on that project for a reparations exhibition in February. And he did that expansion. A part of it was the integration of a song by one of our dancehall artists, by TOK. The song was released sometime around 2004, which talks about a mother sending the son out, and violence that is so much a part of our society took that child away from the mother. And so the integration exists. Our artists are doing it. I've worked with Dushaine in other capacities, and we sometimes talk about his work also within the context of the expressions that comes forth through our literary artists and our music artists. And you can hear it in how he even explains his work. He ties it back to the history, he ties it back to the music, he ties it back. So, excellent question. And it's one of the things that we have seen, and we should continue to encourage the integration across the different creative expressions so that our young people will have a wholesome, unique understanding of their current existence, the future possibilities, and how these are anchored by what they choose to do with the knowledge from the past.
Indeed. All right. So it says interesting. Very good. I like that. All right. Sir Campbell, still with you. How can communities better support young creatives?
All right, so this is a great question, and there are a number of ways to approach it. When I think of the question, a couple words come to mind: mindset, one; two, respect; and three, awareness. What am I getting at? for the communities to better support our young creatives, our visual artists, musicians, etc. There must be a mindset, a shift in mindset, sorry, that must take place. Okay. At this point, I do not think we as a Jamaican society understand the range when we talk about visual arts and the creative industry overall, the trillions of US dollars that are generated annually through this industry that we call the art economy and all of that. Now, there must be a mindset shift. We must, through that mindset shift, sorry, have a respect for the different creative endeavors. When we talk about creative endeavors, these are not about who paint and draw and do collage. We're talking about the fact that if I paint and draw and do collage, I must access items. There are entrepreneurial possibilities just to ensure that I can access the materials that I need for my work. There are administrative needs and there are also technical needs to repair equipment and so forth. We could get into that in so many ways. So respect is important, and just making oneself aware of the range of possibilities is therefore important. Now, what are some of the more practical considerations that we must put on the table? We must talk about the fact that we exist in different spaces. Our home space is important. Too few of us are not encouraged to be, to explore our visual art interests or our music interests and so forth. I think there's a shift in this regard. The JCDC is at the forefront of leading this shift. Note the age at which we accept entries from 6 years upwards. We want persons from the youngest, the youngest members of our home spaces to understand that we see what you have an interest in and we're nurturing that. Shout that young artist from St. James. Why is it that your name is not with me right now? 6 to 8 years old, got a gold medal last year for her work called Road Trip. Okay, the home space is important. Our school spaces are important. Shout out again to all the educators who ensure that their students participate in competitions such as the JCDC Visual Arts competition, as well as some of the other opportunities that exist. Our social spaces, where do we go and engage? And of course, the leadership structure is important. The JCDC as a government agency shows that over the past 60 years, we have placed high levels of importance on the visual arts and on other aspects of our creative expressions. And so the communities, the home spaces, the school spaces, the social spaces, our church spaces need to follow suit and facilitate an environment where there is the mindset shift, the respect, and the awareness. And so let's get even more practical about this. What can we do on the individual level? Let's just say that there are 5 or 6 things that come to mind. One, we should encourage our creatives. Encourage them. A little encouragement goes a far way. Dushaine probably has a few stories of him doing his art and members of his community say, yes, you draw good, you go on good. Encouragement is key. We should remind our young people, our artists, our creatives that, hey, I saw a competition, you should participate. Or I see this opportunity over there, I think you should look into that opportunity and go for it. We should sponsor. Small sponsorships will add up and provide us with what we need to make things happen. I've collected $50 and it add up and I can buy something to create a work of art. Okay, so we're at number 3, which is sponsor. Number 4, we should share. We should share information on our creatives. It takes nothing for us to share an artwork from Dushaine Loraine to say, hey, I saw this artwork on Culture Corner. It was so awesome. I love the way in which he explains it. Let me take a picture. Let me reach out to him and ask if I could get a proper picture of it that I could share. Some of us have global connections. We should share. And of course, we should purchase, those of us who can, or gift the creative expression, whether that be a song or, for my own interest, a visual art work. We should purchase it. We should gift it to somebody. We should be doing these kind of things. So it's a kind of cycle, really, in terms of the individual things that we can do in our communities. We can encourage, that no cost nothing. We can remind, that no cost nothing. We can sponsor, that might cost a little something. We sponsor to, based on the level that we should share that. No cost nothing. And where we can, we should gift the work of our creatives. We should, send a dance video. We should send a visual artwork to somebody as a gift. So these are some things that we really can do, and these will result in support for our artists. Just feeling that we're encouraged to continue. Just knowing that someone over next door is reminding us, yeah, you have an application to submit next week. These little things count, okay? But we want the purchases to happen, and we want the sponsorships to happen as well.
That's right. And speaking of sponsorship, Culture Corner has been going since 2022 without a sponsor. So if you know someone who wants to sponsor to help us to continue to highlight our culture and our young creatives, uh, feel free to reach out, right? And remember, so Campbell says share the link
Absolutely.
to this the
Absolutely.
recordings for Culture Corner. It
Yes.
might be someone in your youth group, someone overseas who didn't know that they could enter the JCDC competitions. Share it. It's just a click of a button. And thanks for those who have been sharing, because most of the views that comes through are usually through our WhatsApp group. So thanks, and continue to share. For those who are new to this space, welcome, and be sure to subscribe and go through. There's a wealth of information. We had last month on Culture Corner, Patrick Earl, our dance specialist at JCDC, sharing a wealth of career options that some of us might not even realize exist in the
Mhm.
art space. So be sure to check that out. And if you don't have the time to sit down and watch the 1 hour, we even go as far as doing a blog recap so you can scan and get the information just like that on the Serenity Resource Connector website. So, I mean, information all around, different opportunities for you to share what Dushaine has shared here and his artwork, so that, I mean, we can all keep growing together as a community, as we're talking about community just now. All right, we're over the 1 hour mark, but really engaging and very insightful conversation here. Mr. Loraine, your artworks are very powerful with lasting impression. But how can we access your work? Do you have or plan to create a website? Do you have a YouTube where we can dive deeper? Talk to us.
Currently I'm on Instagram, and unfortunately I don't have a website currently. I'm a bit more to my students for the term. My apologies for that, but on Instagram you can find me at Dushaine Labora, and that's where I post most of my works at this time. If there's any commissions that persons want, you can contact me there. My email address is also there. DushaneLoraine@gmail.com. One L in the Lorraine. So that's where I've been my outlet thus far. The website is something that I should be working on, but unfortunately, I'm burning in the field, constantly giving to my students, and I take little or no time for myself to focus on my art. And that's why I use JCDC as my outlet, as escape from my students to some extent. But generally, I will try my best to work on it, but I've been saying that for a while. And procrastination also affects Murphy's Law. But I'm trying my best to, you know, be more disciplined to the craft. And that's why I'm constantly creating.
It's your challenge in the school community, and you'll be surprised. You might find someone right there who could create a landing page for you.
Well,
Don't
I
think
will
that you have
ask
to do it
around.
yourself. That's what the community is for. So it's not about what you can do, but who you have in your community that can actually help to support you. So while you pour in, you need to have someone pouring back, pour out rather. You need to have someone pouring back into you so that the system can keep flowing the way it ought to. Right. So Tuesday, Mr. Campbell, I am not sure if you are familiar with the Las Falas Festival in Spain. I'm sure I butchered that, which incorporate elaborate sculptures. It is a UNESCO cultural heritage. where this continues, where do you see Jamaican art in the next 5 to 10 years, and how can we create an international presence?
That's a tough question. The first part is an easy yes, and I felt having seen in that reference that a question like this would follow, that how do we sort of emulate, not copy, but emulate some of the ways in which art and culture, visual culture more broadly, how other spaces are using visual culture to, one, cement a sense of identity within the communities, but also facilitate opportunities for members of the community. And I see, in terms of what has been happening now, we have been moving in a direction that has just been phenomenal. We talk about our mural artists. We're not just located in Kingston. As much as we are very familiar with the art district, which is a wonderful undertaking. We've seen new art spaces emerging, such as Creative Space, which is currently located in downtown Kingston. So we're seeing some of the things happening. We're seeing activities at some of our more traditional galleries and art spaces, such as the Olympia Gallery. And we see that there's interest even in establishing similar such spaces in other parts of the island. I mentioned the whole thing of shifting mindset. I don't think we are fully there yet. I think some of us are getting there. But I think once the momentum continues to build, and once the work that is happening even here, and persons like you, Mr. Pusey, asking these types of questions, I think we'll have to get to that place where it's not just a conversation, but also a call to action to
Yes.
really make things happen. So practically then, where are we going to be at in 5, 10 years? In 5 years, we're going to have a lot more mural spaces. But in 5 years, I believe that there is interest in having more than the murals. Let's just say that when the call went out for the airport in Kingston to have a mural for, to welcome our visitors, and also to remind those who are departing that, hey, you're at the most wonderful place on earth. There was a conversation among the visual art community that, hey, what about sculptures as well? In fact, one of the things that we really need, and it's consistent with the first part of the question, is a proper sculpture park. So what are we then saying? In a few years, we're going to have a shift where the other creative disciplines will in fact be visible and sort of get to a place where we see with our muralists. Currently, if you go to the White River Fish Sanctuary, you'll see an installation there made of fiber, which was based on an environmental project. I was a part of that project. And the idea was, again, how can we talk about the environment using materials that were organic, using a creative discipline like fiber art, so weaving and macrame and those things, to create art that is engaging, interesting, but which also would have cultural and environmental relevance. So I see us doing more of these things in tandem with our mural work. So there will be an explosion of a lot more artistic expressions in the public spaces. And that's what I would want to see in the next 5 to 10 years. Just this exponential growth where we have lots of other things happening for fiber artists, for our sculptors, in addition to our painters and even our digital artists. I mean, how can I leave out the fact that as we become more and more digital, there'll be a need for more digital expressions being a part of our public spaces. So these are some of the things I see happening. Jamaica continues to lead the way. Our JCDC competition is such a flagship. There's nothing like it in the region, and we continue to just move art forward. So I'm excited about the next 5 to 10 years in this regard.
And you're right back where you started, because what I'm hearing is opportunities, opportunities, opportunities.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed.
All right. So, Sir Dushaine Loraine, our JCDC 2024 Visual Arts Medallist. Let's hear your word of encouragement for emerging artists.
Um,
Right after we just share, Mr. Pusey says he loved that word explosion. Yes, I believe it's time for the artistic renaissance. I love that. I swear the shade.
um,
Encourage our upcoming artists.
one of the things I believe in is one, criticism is good, whether positive or negative. It also gives you live feedback for you to understand what you're working on, what you need to fix, what you need to resolve. Most students sometimes or young artists get caught up in what we call a style. Dr. Campbell can allude to this. I think the more you create, there's this thing called the happy accident, and that only happens in the process of creating constantly. So don't get caught up in being too much in your head, but rather find things that you have a deep passion for. So, for example, you have a passion for the theme of nature. Try to look at nature from varying perspectives. It could have been in a case where you're looking at wet on wet. How does water look on a piece of leaf opposed to how it look on a bird or a dog? How can I capture that to then create a composition? How do I compose my artwork? Understanding the language of art is very fundamental. I remember when I was younger as a young artist, it was somewhat difficult understanding color theory. So it's not just about creating a pretty image, but it's moreover important for you to become a student of the visual arts. And in becoming a student of the visual art, you will start to understand the varying balance as it relates to how you compose a work, whether it be symmetrical, asymmetrical, radial balance. How do I create rhythm? How do I create contrast within the work? And in understanding this, you eventually become so grounded in your work that over time you can see the growth in your work. So constantly keep working. That's what I'll recommend any young artist to do. Just keep at it. Work, work, work. Sounds repetitive, but that's what art is. You get better at it over time, not instantly.
That's it's sound guidance. Yes, Sir Campbell, some quick tips as we prepare to close out for entering the JCDC Visual Arts Competition, or just your final thoughts in general. Go right ahead.
All right, so I want to add to what Dushaine said. Firstly,
Okay.
we often say practice makes perfect. I'd like to shift that to practice makes permanent. So let's continue to practice the good things so that they can be permanently with us.
Yes.
And this is just to underscore that one of the points that he made, just to keep going, keep being consistent, and so forth. In terms of the competition, remember, we accept entries in June of this year. We have about 2 months to do some basic things. We need to identify our artworks. We need to have photographs of the artworks taken. We need to figure out what tags we want to put on the artworks based on the content of that artwork. We need to have an active email address. We need to, when the time comes in June, log on and submit. That is how we are sort of going forward with that. In terms of just the final reflections, I'd like to encourage not just our young people, but our not so young people as well, to recognize that there's something called a visual arts industry, or as my director likes to say, a visual arts ecosystem. There are some technical careers, there are some creative careers, there are some administrative careers, and there are also what I would like to refer to as some educational careers. So there's a whole vast set of systems. That's how we transport the materials that are used to create art. There's a whole thing there. How we transport the art itself is a whole thing, even in light of what's happening in terms of global economics and tariffs and so forth. So there are all of these things that we have to be mindful about. We have worked with artists who are located overseas and have had to ship works and all of these things. There's a whole ecosystem. So let us not underplay the creative industries, broadly speaking, and certainly let us not in any way, shape, or form think that those of us who are involved in the visual arts we're in something that nah gonna wear no make no sense to Lily. and so forth. And I've used the Jamaicanisms deliberately right there. Okay, we are a part of something that is enduring, that is critical, that is important, and this is one of the reasons why the JCDC Visual Arts Competition is the longest running of its type and kind, perhaps outside the Caribbean. I'll have to look into that. It certainly is the largest as well in terms of scope, the types of participants, number of participants, the creative industries. And it's a reason why, one of the reasons why we have an artist like a Dushaine Loraine with us today. So the visual arts, we cannot undersell it, we cannot underplay it, but we certainly must respect it, shift our mindsets, and support the artists who are in our respective communities.
There you have it. So, if you were not sure before how to go about being a part of the Creative Arts Competition this year, you have more than enough time. Go back through, you can listen, rewatch, and jot down all the points and reach out to Sir Campbell to get some guidance. The team will be there to provide the support that you need. Sir Campbell?
Yeah, and if I may, if you
Sure.
send us an email at visarts, visarts at jcdc.gov.jm, we'll be happy to help you.
There you go. So there's no excuse for you not to showcase what you have, get the support, and keep moving so that you can get better and better at it. All right. So you heard the story and the deep reflections and insights from Dushaine Loraine, our educator and creative artist extraordinaire. And we're looking to see bigger and better things because the depth that the shade shared with, we know that there's much more there to unearth, and we're looking forward to it and to the artists that he's actually nurturing there in the different spaces all around. So Campbell, thanks as always for sharing your expertise here, your guidance, and always being ready and willing to be a part of, just strengthening our cultural fabric here in Jamaica. And for those in the diaspora that's looking on, remember, you too, once you are a Jamaican, can be a part of what's happening here. Just reach out and find out how you can make your submissions and take it from there. For those who are able to join us live, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, keep the conversations going, keep sharing so that others can get to wind of the information. We have some time for them to go dust off those pieces, sharpen those pencils, and whatever it is that you need, get the material and just do it, right? There's several artists who would have entered time and time again, and they keep going at it until they get to receiving their medal, and it must be a rewarding and fulfilling experience. So let's help them get it done as a community. Thank you so much, as always, for making it Serenity Resource Connector. Culture Corner, our first live forum for the month, but we have several others coming up, so you want to look out for our Youth Empowerment Forum on Tuesday. And then we move into safety and security on Thursday, and the list continues as we go down into Early Childhood Commission on the third Thursday. It's going to be Community Corner, and we're going to be featuring two more educators in another aspect of our culture and our space. And then we close out the month with our Local Governance and Community Development Forum with the Clarendon Municipal Corporation. So come on back each Thursday, and then second and third Tuesday, same time, 8 p.m. Thank you again. And remember, sharing is caring. So let's keep the conversations going. Thanks again, gentlemen, for sharing space with us here. Have yourself a fantastic rest of the night. SRC Culture Corner Live Forum is brought to you on first Thursdays at 8 p.m. in partnership with the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC. Visit our website at www.serenityresourceconnector.com and subscribe to receive our weekly blog post. Join us again on Tuesday at 8 p.m. for our Youth Empowerment Live Forum. Thank you for watching.